Welcome to AfriLink Network Consult. Today our topic is Spanning Tree Protocol, STP. Spanning Tree Protocol. Spanning Tree Protocol is a loop preventive protocol. It's a switching technology. Loop preventive protocol. Now the question that arises is, what is loop? What is switching loops? How are they formed? Question 1, we have to answer that. Question 2, how does STP prevent switching loops from happening? So by the end of the lesson, students should be able to answer these two questions. Switching loops. How are they formed? Switching loops are formed whenever there is redundancy in a network. Whenever there is redundancy in a network, switching loops are formed. What is redundancy? Now take a look at these two topologies. So you have a switch here, another here, and another here, and they are connected this way. Let's assume this is your data center switch. So all your servers are connected to this data center switch, and the users are connected to these switches here. Anytime each user wants to communicate with the servers here, they go through this link. All right? This is a single link to the data center. We say this is a single point of failure. We don't recommend this topology in the sense that if a link goes down here, it will affect every user. They won't be able to communicate with the servers. Okay? So we say this topology, there's no redundancy in the topology. It's not a good thing. It's not recommended. Compare this topology to this one. So it's the same three switches, but we've connected them in a different way. So let's make the top switch the data center switch, where servers will be connected. So these are the servers. And the users will be here. This second topology is recommended because there is redundancy in this topology. Why am I saying so? So for these users to communicate with the servers here, they have two paths. They can either go through this path to the data center or through this path to the data center. You see? So this is a good thing. It's recommended. But whenever you create redundancy this way, switching loops are likely to happen. Does it mean we shouldn't create redundancy? Okay, STP says go ahead, create your redundancy. I will come in to prevent the switching loop from happening. So that's the basic mission of STP. Go ahead, create your redundancy. I'll come in to prevent the switching loops. But first of all, let's see how loops occur. Switching loops, let's see how they occur. Let's put a switch here, another here, and another here. Let's connect them this way. So you see there's redundancy, full redundancy. All right, so I have my pieces connected to this switch. Let's call this switch A, switch B, and switch C. And a PC connected here. This is PC A and PC B. So PC A and PC B are coming to communicate for the first time. You know, switches make their decisions based on the MAC address of an encapsulated data. So if this packet wants to communicate with this, if this PC wants to communicate with this switch, it will form packets. Okay? That packet layer 2 field has the source MAC address and the destination MAC address. The switches leverage on the information on the layer 2 to make their switching decision. So the packet gets to this switch here, and this switch looks at the destination MAC address. Supposing the MAC address of this PC is DD. Initially, this switch doesn't have it in its switching table or MAC address table. So what does it do to the packet? It will flood. Okay, it will flood. What is flooding, Prince? What is flooding? Flooding is when the switch sends out a unicast packet out of every port. It is different from broadcast. Okay? Feel free to ask any question you want to ask. When switches send out unicast packet out of every port, we call it flooding. So the packet which PC A is sending to PC B is a unicast packet. It's meant for one PC. Because the switch A doesn't know the destination MAC address, it will send it out of every port, including this port here. Okay? So the packet will go through this port, and some will come out of this port here. Flooding. Same packet. The one which is heading towards switch B also hits this interface of the switch, and switch B repeats the same process. It doesn't know the MAC address, the destination MAC address. So what does it do? It will flood out of every port, with the exception of where it was received on. Okay, some of the packet will come out of all these ports, including this one. What are we doing? How switching loops are formed. Remember, there is one packet coming towards this direction. It also hits this interface of switch C, and the process repeats itself. Switch C doesn't know the destination, so it will flood out of every port, including this port. Mind you, there's one coming towards this direction. So what are we seeing? Switching loops. Packets will keep on going round, until the network shuts down. So you see, switching loops are so bad for the network. It's not a good thing. Redundancy is a good thing, but it's prone to switching loops. That is when STP comes in to help the situation. How does STP help the situation? STP will block a port. It will select a port and put it in a blocking state. So this port is in a blocking state. That is STP. Basically, that's what it does. It will put a port in a blocking state. So now let's assume STP has come in to help the situation. This port is in a blocking state. Let's see if that can prevent loops from happening. All right, so PCA wants to send packet to PCB. It sends the packet to switch A. What does switch A do? A flash sends out a packet of every port. Okay, so some is going towards this direction, but remember this port is blocked, so no packet to be sent out of this direction because STP has blocked that port. The one hitting this interface of the switch is also sent out of every port, including this uplink port. But remember, because this port is blocked, we don't have any packet going towards the direction. The one coming here hits the interface of switch C here, and switch C decides to flood it. Some comes out of every port, as you can see, heading towards this blocked port. When it gets here, the packet is blocked. So STP has prevented switching loops from happening. Basically, that is what STP does. It doesn't end there. Now STP is still monitoring the link. So we call this one the primary link. Okay, even though there's redundancy, this redundant link is put on hold. STP says wait until the network goes down. So if PCA wants to communicate with PCB, the packet will go this long way, come here, and there's communication. PCB will also respond through this link. Now, STP is still monitoring the primary link. If there is a problem on the primary link, supposing it goes down, STP will sense it. You see how intelligent STP is. It will sense that a link is down, so it has to release this port here to send out packets. It happens automatically. So once this link, the primary link goes down, STP will now move this port here from STP will now move this port from the blocking state to the listening state. So this port here will transition from blocking to listening. Now it will come to a state called the learning state before it will finally release the port to forward packet. Okay, so the mode of the port will change from blocking state to listening state, from listening to learning, and finally forwarding. So this port can now send packets. If this primary link goes down, now A wants to communicate with B, the packet will be sent out this port here. So you see how beautiful STP works. So you can summarize the work of STP. Okay, STP is a loop preventive protocol. You should be able to explain how switching loops occur and how STP comes in to help the situation. It doesn't only block a port. After blocking the port, it's still monitoring the network. If the primary link goes down, STP has to release the blocked port to forward packets. Before it does that, that port must go through all this state. So from the blocking state to the listening state is 15 seconds. Okay, we call it the forward delay. Forward delay. From the listening state to the learning state is another 15 seconds, which is also called the forward delay. From learning to forwarding is 20 seconds, and that is called the max age timer. Max age timer. Yes. So in total, STP will take 50 seconds to release a port from the blocking state to the forwarding state. This standard of STP is called the 802.1D. 802.1D. It's a standard. Okay? 802.1D. That's in this standard, STP will take 50 seconds to release a port from the blocking state to the forwarding state. Is that not beautiful? It is. Okay, but there is more to it. Now we are coming to look at STP operations. How does it choose a port to block? If you look at this topology here, these are the ports taking part in STP. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. How does STP choose a port to block? Is it this port? This one? How does it do that? That brings us to another topic, STP operations. Do you have any question to ask? Not yet. So STP operations. We have some terminologies that we need to get used to them. First, we'll talk about the bridge ID. We'll also talk about BPDU, Bridge Protocol Data Unit. BPDU, Bridge Protocol Data Unit. 3, we also talk about root bridge. Four, non-root bridge. 5, port cost. 6, root port. 7, designated port. So bridge ID, we are going to use the terms interchangeably. If you hear bridge, it's the same as switch. Okay, so keep it in mind. So you can also say switch ID. All right. Bridge ID is the priority plus VLAN plus MAC address. What is priority? Priority is a number that is given to every switch. Okay, so for Cisco switches, the number is 32768. That's the default number which is given to every Cisco switch. 32768. Just a number. But this number can be changed, it can be altered. It can either be increased or reduced. Not just by any number, but by this 4096. So if you want to reduce this default value, you have to subtract 4096 or factors of 4096. Okay? You can't just reduce it by 2 or 5 or 10. No, it has to be this value. If you want to increase it to, it has to be this value. That's how you can increase the priority. We'll see how to configure the priority of every switch. Oh, come on. What did I do? What about VLAN? You know VLANs already? Yes. So, if you have a new switch, all the ports are in VLAN 1. I'll be aware. Yeah. That's the default VLAN. So STP works with VLAN. If you haven't configured any VLAN on the switch still has a VLAN, VLAN 1. And every switch has a MAC address, which is unique. Okay? So the combination of all these things here will give you the bridge ID. So every switch has a bridge ID. What about the BPDU, Bridge Protocol Data Units? When switches are connected this way, each switch sends out some small packets. Okay, let's imagine an envelope. Okay, they exchange BPDUs. BPDUs contain every bridge or every switch ID. So this switch here, switch A, will send out its BPDU to switch B, and the information in the BPDU is the bridge ID of switch A. Okay, so this BPDU has the priority of switch A, the VLAN of switch A, the MAC address of switch A, amongst other information. We'll get to know about those informations later. When this BPDU gets to switch B will also send its BPDU to switch A. They keep on exchanging. What does it mean? Let's get to know ourselves better. Okay, these are my informations. It will give me your information. So switch B also has its bridge ID, and as we know, bridge ID is priority, MAC address, and VLAN. It's all contained in the BPDU. Then switch B will also send it to switch A. So this BPDU, which gets to switch B, will come to switch C. Okay, it keeps on going around the network. The BPDU, which is generated from switch B, also goes around the network. So at the end of the day, every switch will get to know the information about any other switch with the help of the BPDUs. Is that point clear? Okay. When switches come on board, elections go on. Elections are conducted. Two types of elections. Let's still stick to our 3 switches technology. So to stress on the point again, we are doing STP operations. How STP blocks a port. Okay? Let me call this switch A, switch B, and switch C. Once the switches come on board this way, the first election they do is the root bridge election. Out of these 3 switches, one will be elected as the root bridge. That is the boss of the network. Everybody wants to be a boss. So initially, all of the switches will assume I am the root bridge. I am the boss. Until they receive BPDUs from their peers. Okay? Then they will either decide they are not the boss or they are still the boss. The criteria to win this election is the switch or the bridge with the smallest bridge ID. For switching, everything lower is better. Switch A has a bridge ID, switch B has a bridge ID, and switch C has a bridge ID. The switch or the bridge, which will become the root bridge, is the bridge with the smallest bridge ID. How they get to know the bridge IDs of other switches? Can you tell me?
Yes.
Tell me.
When the BPDUs are shared.
Simple. So, by sharing the BPDUs, the switches will get to know the identities of other switches. So that's the first election. The root bridge election is the first election which is conducted. Let me circle it. So assuming switch B becomes the root bridge because it has the smallest bridge ID. So that is the root. Let me put it here. Root bridge or root. Switch A and switch B are non-root bridges. The name is explanatory because they are not root bridges. They are non-root bridges. So let's put it here. Let me shorten it. Root bridge. This is also a non-root bridge.